عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. يا وسيع الحسن والخلفاء الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعزتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين. بر محمد و اهل بیت محمد صلوات.
اور صلوات پڑھی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
تو نے حسین خاک کا رتبہ بڑھا دیا. تو نے حسین خاک کا رتبہ بڑھا دیا. ذرات کربلا کا مقدر جگا دیا. ذرات کربلا کا مقدر جگا دیا. اور قدموں نے تیرے دشت کو معراج بخش دے. قدموں نے تیرے دشت کو معراج بخش دے. فرش زمین کو عرش مولا بنا دیا. تو نے حسین خاک کا بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. بار دیگر نعرے صلوات. صفِ عزا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے ہیں. صفِ عزا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے ہیں. دریچے قبر میں تازہ ہوا کے رکھتے ہیں. اور غم حسین کی دولت کو کیجئے ظاہر. غم حسین کی دولت کو کیجئے ظاہر. یہ مال وہ نہیں جس کو چھپا کے رکھتے صف ازا جو گھروں میں بجھا کے رکھتے، ہمیں یہ جان سے پیارا ہے اس لیے ہمیں یہ جان سے پیارا ہے اس لیے ہم غم حسین کو دل سے لگا کے رکھتے ہیں، غم حسین کو دل سے لگا کے رکھتے، اور ڈرا نہ سختی محشر سے ہم کو واعظ، ہم ڈرا نہ سختی محشر سے ہم کو واعظ، حوالے جیب میں مشکل کشا کے رکھتے، صف ازا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے، بعزم الفت عباس یا علی کہہ، بعزم الفت عباس یا علی علم اٹھاتے ہیں پاؤں جما کے رکھتے ہیں، صف ازا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے، اور ہم ان کے بدلے میں گھر لیں گے خلد جنت میں، ہم ان کے بدلے میں گھر لیں گے خلد جنت، گوہر جو آنکھوں میں اشک عزا کے رکھتے، صف ازا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے، اور جو ہیں علاج غم دل میں آزمائے ہوئے، جو ہیں علاج غم دل میں آزمائے ہوئے، ہم اپنے پاس وہ نسخے شفا کے رکھتے ہیں، صف ازا جو گھروں میں بچھا کے رکھتے ہیں۔ صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد۔ سورہ فاتحہ۔ ایک اور صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل شہرا۔
شہرا جہان میں حسن عسکری کا ہے، شہرا جہان میں حسن عسکری کا ہے، نہ نقش نگیں یہ عرش کی انگشت ریکا ہے، اور کونین میں یہ گل چمن حیدری کا ہے، در یتیم مادن پیغمبری کا ہے، در یتیم مادن پیغمبری کا ہے، اور مظلومیت مثال جناب حسین، اور دبدبے میں فاتح بدر و حنین، اور دبدبے میں فاتح بدر و حنین، اور ہم پایا ہے علی کا یہ محبوب عزت، بابا علی نکی ہے تو جد مرتضی، اور خود قبلہ زمین و زمان عابد و سرتاج خلق زینب دہ مسند، سرتاج خلق زیب دہ مسند نبی، سرتاج خلق زیب دہ مسند نبی، اور ہادی ذکی لقب ہے شاہ خاص و عام، اور صاحب زماں ہے پسر اس امام، اور صاحب زماں ہے پسر اس امام، اور عابد کی طرح ان پہ عبادت کا خاتمہ، مثل علی ہے ان پہ شجاعت کا خاتمہ، صادق کی طرح ان پہ صداقت کا خاتمہ، مثل حسن ہے خلق و مروت کا خاتمہ، مثل حسن ہے خلق و مروت کا خاتمہ، اور شمع مزار اقدس شیر الالہ، پشت و پناہ قبر رسالت پناہ، پشت و پناہ قبر رسالت پناہ، پر معتمد نے قہر کیا وا مصیبت، ایسے ولی کو زہر دیا وا مصیبت، ایمان کے گھر کو لوٹ لیا وا مصیبت، خون جگر حرم نے پیا وا مصیبت، خون جگر حرم نے پیا وا مصیبت، پھاڑا کفن نبی نے علی ننگے سر ہو، بچپن میں ہائے مہدی دی بے پدر ہو، بچپن میں ہائے مہدی دی بے پدر، اور مولا کو ورثہ یہ حسن پاک کا ملا، یعنی حسن کی طرح سے زہر و وغا ملا، ہر روز ایک روز سے صدمہ سے وام، کیا خاک میں نشان رسول خدا ملا، کیا خاک میں نشان رسول خدا، اور زہر اجل سے سبز حسن کا بدن ہو، سر سبز خوب شیر خدا کا چمن، سر سبز خوب شیر خدا کا چمن، اور حیران تھے زائران حسینی کے کیا ہے، کیوں زلزلے میں قبر شہ کربلا ہے، اور محشر میان گنج شہیداں بپا آتی ہے یہ صدا ہمیں صدمہ بڑا ہے، آتی ہے یہ صدا ہمیں صدمہ بڑا، اور زخمی بدن کو میرے عدو نے ہلا دیا، پوتے کو میرے زہر ہلا حل پلا دی، پوتے کو میرے زہر حلال پلا دیا شورا جہان میں بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات بھارت دیگر نعرے صلوات Before I invite Molana Rizwan Rizvi to address tonight's Masjid-e-Ali, let us recognize the sponsors for tonight's Majalis. They are Brother Faisal Zaidi and Sister Farwa Zaidi. For their marhumeen, for your marhumeen, and for those that have no one to recite for them, one Surah Fatiha. دعا کرتے ہیں اللہ تعالیٰ سے کہ اللہ تعالیٰ ہمارے اسپانسرز کی توفیقات میں اضافہ فرمائے اور مرحومین جو ہیں اللہ تعالیٰ ان کے درجات بلند کرے. And with that, I would like to now request Molana Rizwan Rizvi to address tonight's Majlis-e-Ali. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بار دیگر نعرے صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن الرحيم أنعمت عليهم ولا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات بيجي محمد وعلى. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Condolences to Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, on this sad occasion upon which we commemorate the Shahadat of his father, our 11th Imam, Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. This marks the end of Ayyam-e Azaa in the sense that for 2 months and 8 days we avoided gatherings of jashan, gatherings of happiness and joy. And after this moment, we can resume our gatherings of joy and happiness. But of course, this does not mean that it ends the period of something which was, haram, and now it becomes halal for that matter. Or something that we had imposed upon ourselves to refrain from during these 2.5 months.
that now we can go back to those things again. Of course, there are many people who raise this point as to 2 months and 8 days of Azah. Why do you commemorate so much? Some argue and they say that, so much energy is spent in 2.5 months. So many majalis, so much money is spent on organizing the majalis, organizing the tabarruk. People spend so much money going to the ziyarat, and they go during the Muharram Ashra, then they go for Arba'een walk, and all the majalis that we have at homes, aside from the majalis that we conduct in our centers, which themselves, if you were to count, aside from the first Ashra, 12 or 13 majalis, then every weekend there are majalis, all together in 2.5 months. Everyone has at least attended 50 to 60 majalis. And that many majalis are held in every part of the world, not just here in New Jersey, but anywhere you go, any city that you go, there are majalis happening at the local center or centers, and then at homes, and all of this is being done in the name of Imam Hussein. So question rises that, we spend so much money on tabarruk, we spend so much money in organizing the majalis, the seminars that are then organized regarding Sayyid al-Shuhada and Hussein and Muharram and Safar. People go for the travels numerous times. Every year people are going for Arba'een. Many times a year they're going for the ziyarat. All this money that you're spending, isn't it better that you take this money and do it charity? There are people who raise this question and say, well, wouldn't Imam Hussein be more happy than if you were to take all this money and spend it for charity? Why are these people, just imagine, for one Majlis Azah, for example, if $1,000 are spent, which is of course more than that, if $1,000 are spent for one Majlis Azah, which is held, for example, in this center, then 50 majalis that happen in 2.5 months, $50,000 right there. And then of course when you invite people, you pay them as well, and then you have the tabarruk as well, then all the other expenses that happen along with it. All these expenses, can you not take this money, use it for charity and help people out who are suffering in the world? We can probably end hunger in the world if all of the Shia got together in the entire world to, instead of doing the majlis, for example, or cutting down on their tabarruk, for example, and doing all of this. This is not a today's question. This question was raised in the time of Shaheed Mutahari. Mutahari was martyred 40-some years ago. And he responded to this question. He said, why people question that, why spend so much money, instead do charity with it? He said, how come you're not asking those people who do not organize majalis, who do not go for ziyarat, why shouldn't they just go ahead and do charity? Why are you questioning those who do majalis, and numerous majalis, and go for ziyarat, and have tabarrukat? Why are you asking them for charity? Why not ask those who don't do any of these things? That's number one. Number two, when a person goes for the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada, when he stands in the bargah of Imam Hussein, the energy and the sense of giving, because he's visiting someone who gave his life. He's visiting someone who sacrificed himself. He's visiting someone who gave his family in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you stand in the bargah of Imam Hussein, you come back with a bigger heart to go ahead and give more and more to the society. So continue going for the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Why? Because if you were giving less when you went for the ziyarat, you'll come back and you'll give sevenfold when you come back. That's the effect of it. Shaheed Mutahari gave this answer, not me. I'm just relating what he said. This question has been around. So much energy is spent and so many majalis take place. Now, of course, one thing that has to be, we need to be held accountable. All of these, of course, money that you spend in the way of Imam Hussein, of course, it's multiplied and you get back, and then you get this sense of donating more and more. That's why you see Azadar are the ones who are more into charity than those who are not. Aside from this point, one thing is that we are also accountable, and that is what? 2.5 months of Azah. What was the purpose behind it? What have we gained out of this? Have we been able to understand something which we didn't understand last year? Because now when you do this and it is repeated, you might be asked a question and you will be held accountable for that. That's why I chose this ayat. Ayat number 3 from Surah Dahr, chapter 76. وَهَدَيْنَا إِنَّ هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. We guided them to the path, to the sabil. Now they are either grateful or they are ungrateful. You know, this ayah begins with what? هَلْ أَتَى عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ هِينٌ مِّنَ الدَّهْرِ لَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. That insan, there was a time upon you when you were not even worth mentioning. You were that najas liquid, you were not even worth mentioning. Then we gave you this ability. Now we need to focus and see imma shakiran wa imma kafura. Either you are grateful to the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or you are ungrateful. So one thing we need to be held accountable, or we should hold ourselves accountable after 2.5 months of azah. First of all, 2.5 months of azah. You say, well, this is stretching. Why don't you follow the sirat of Ma'asumin? The 6th Imam, the 8th Imam, they used to do majalis, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. They used to hold majalis on the day of Ashur. So you can commemorate for 10 days. Why stretch it all the way till Chahlum? And then after that to the wafat of Rasulullah, then to the Shahadat of Imam Hasan al-Askari. Why 2.5 months? You know, we are followers of Imam, true. But also, when you do something, if the reaction to something is being done in reaction, then you don't ask question. But if something is done preemptively, then you question. Stay with me. Something hasn't happened yet. So the reaction can't take place. Can you preemptively do something about it? You shouldn't. Then you should be questioning. For example, if the rain hasn't happened, the preemptive is, of course, you protect yourself from the rain and whatnot. But when it starts raining, only then you start walking around with an umbrella. You don't walk around with an umbrella because 2 hours later it's going to rain. Just a silly example. That's the only thing that I could come up with. But you understand that after effect, you don't question. Before you can question preemptively. Now coming back to the azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. We commemorate the azah after the shahadat. Because many of the imams did it. Rasulullah, his companions, and the ladies of his house, they commemorated the azah of Imam Hussein 50 years before his shahadat. If anyone should be questioned, it should be them, not us. You know, you heard the riwayat of Majma' al-Zawaid. Haythami narrates. Rasulullah was playing with Imam Hussein and then he was crying. Azwaj came, oh Rasulullah, may our lives be sacrificed over you. What made you cry? Rasulullah said. Jibreel came down and he said, this grandson of yours, he will be martyred. He showed me the place. He gave me the khak of that place. That made me cry. All the women of the house, they heard this story. They started crying. Rasulullah came out like this with the asar of crying. His companion asked him, oh Rasulullah, may our lives be ransomed over you. What made you cry? Rasulullah said this same thing. They started crying. So the first people who wept for Imam Hussein is Rasul, his azwaj, and his companions. Should be questioning them, why are you crying for Imam Hussein? And then we only do as the ta'assi of Ma'asumin and Rasulullah after the shahadat of Imam Hussein. It's okay, 10 days, why more than that? When someone such as Hazrat Abu Talib, someone such as Bibi Khadija, salamullah alayha, who were the true helpers of Rasulullah, when they left this world and both of them died, you know, they were tabi'i maut, natural death. They were old in age and they died like that. They weren't poisoned, they weren't martyred in a battlefield. When they left this world, Rasulullah, did he say, have gham of my uncle and my wife for 1 week? For 3 days. We'll do the Soyam Majlis and then that's it. We'll do the Daswa and that's it. We'll do the Chehlum Majlis and that's it. No, Rasulullah declared the entire year to be Amul Huzn. The entire year for two individuals who are cornerstones, but they died naturally. But when someone who is the reason for the baqa of this religion gives his life, irrigates the land of Islam which was drying up with his own blood, you want us to limit the azah of Imam Hussein? Even 2.5 months is very little. It should be extended beyond that. That's why we believe in the maqula. It's not a hadith. Kullu yawmin Ashura wa kullu ardin Karbala. Every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I know this is the end of Azah, of these 2.5 months. But people get questions like this. Why are we commemorating the gham of Imam Hussein? Well, why aren't we commemorating the gham of someone else? You go ahead and commemorate the gham of someone else. We'll commemorate the gham of Imam Hussein. This is for us. We wait and we anticipate the beginning of the month. The beginning of the month serves as what for us? While it is a sad and sorrow beginning to the Islamic calendar, but we wait for it wholeheartedly and we anticipate the beginning. So when questions are asked from the youngsters especially, and now as you will be moving into these scenarios where these questions will be raised, not that we are obligatory upon us to give these sort of answers, but to have answers is not a bad thing. What I want to do tonight, before I get to the masaib of our 11th Imam, 4 ayat from Quran proving why we have the azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, especially for 2.5 months in these ayyam, from the ayat of Quran. And of course, if you believe in Quran, then you shouldn't have any point arguing why we do it. For our kids, it's sometimes, when we are brought up, our parents said, go to Majlis, we went to Majlis. They said, this is how we do it, we did it. The norms we learned because they taught us. But today's generation questions. They ask the falsafa, the philosophy of it. Why? And sometimes this why part is not solved. So I'll give you 4 ayat. If you have your phones, you can jot down these ayat. Only then you're allowed to use your phone. Otherwise, you should put your phones and gadgets away. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. First ayat for you. Surah Hud, chapter 11, ayat number 120. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَجَاءَكَ فِي هَذَا الْحَقِّ مَوْعِظَةٌ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet about the previous Anbiya. The Rasul has ilm ghaib. Allah gives it to him. How does he know about the previous Anbiya? Allah taught him. Where does he mention it? In ayat of Quran. What good is it going to serve to Rasulullah knowing about the previous Anbiya? What good? Today when people say 14 centuries ago, man died, get over it, move on. Why are you stuck in 14 centuries? Move on. Why do you keep on reminding? I said it in one of the home majalis that Imam Ghazali, a person of his caliber who wrote Ahya Ulumuddin, he raised this question and he gave a fatwa in his time. He banned the speakers from doing the dhikr of Hussein from the mimbar. He gave a fatwa. There's a fatwa mawjood still in his book, that it is haram for a muwa'iz to do the dhikr of Sayyid al-Shuhada from the mimbar. And then he gave a reason. لَيُهِيَّجُ bihi or ala bughzil sahaba. Why? Yuhayyij comes from hayjan. It, then gives opportunity for people to have bughz sahaba. The grudge and hatred towards sahaba. It increases the hatred towards sahaba if you do the dhikr of Hussein. I fail to connect these two things. Why? Because my understanding is that Imam Hussain was martyred in 61 after Hijrah. Sahaba, those you refer to as Sahaba, were not alive. Only Sahabi, that is Imam Hussain himself. What is the definition of Sahaba? Someone who's seen Rasulullah. It's only Hussain who's seen Rasulullah and he's martyred. No one else from the Sahaba at that time who's facing Imam Hussain. Now there were Ashab. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri is still alive. There are many Ashab. But those who are opposing Imam Hussain, I didn't think the Ashab were the ones fighting Imam Hussain. Who was fighting? If anything, Zikr Hussain raises the bughz of Shimr in my heart. Adawat of Khuli in my heart. Hatred of Pisar Saad in my heart. Bughz of Yazid in my heart. These are the players that are at that time involved in killing of Imam Hussain. I did not know Imam Ghazali was guiding me. No, if you do the zikr of Sayyidul Shuhada from the mimbar, Bughz-e Ashab will also be encouraged in you. I don't know how he came about it. Maybe we can have a discussion about it another time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Surah Hud, ayat 120 tells you what? Tells you that Allah wants Prophet to know about the previous Anbiya. Why? He gives a reason. Ma nuthabbitu bihi fawadak. Why? By hearing the discussion about the previous Anbiya and their struggles and the shahadat of them will go ahead and make your heart steadfast. Nuthabbitu bihi fawadak. Wajaka fi hadhil haq. And it is the truth. So you need to know what is the truth. وَمَوْئِزَةٌ. There is wa'az in it for you. There's a lesson in it for you. وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And it's an admonition for mu'mineen. Guess what? The reminder of the previous Anbiya, their struggles, their shahadat, Allah exclusively mentions it for what? ذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Did not say لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ, لِلْمُنَافِقِينَ, لِلْغَيْرِ مُؤْمِنِينَ. Meaning what? Dhikr of Hussain is also for mu'mineen, and ghayr mu'mineen do not need to tune into this. So Hud 120 is giving Rasulullah the information about the previous Anbiya and their struggles. We do the zikr of Sayyidul Shuhada because of this ayat, which proves that it is also bringing what? Admonition to the hearts of mu'mineen. That's number one. Number two, we see that anything that reminds you of Allah, anything that takes you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is considered the symbols and the sacraments of Allah. ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever does the ta'zeem and reveres the sha'air and the symbols and the sacraments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the result of the taqwa of their hearts. So if you do not hold up the sha'air and do the reverence of the ta'zeem of the sha'air of Allah, then you're not come close to taqwa and piety. Sha'air Hussaini are sha'airullah as well. When you remember Sayyidul Shuhada, who stood up to keep this deen from being annihilated, Imam Hussain, his zat is sha'airullah. Quran says in Surah Hajj, ayat number 32, to do what? To go ahead and do the ta'zeem of sha'airullah. Guess what? Why do we commemorate the gham of Sayyidul Shuhada? Because we want to go ahead and uphold the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's second ayat for you, Surah Hajj, ayat number 32. Third ayat is something which you have all heard before. This is an ayat which talks about showing love toward the family and the household of Rasulullah. At least this much we need to educate ourselves. What is the ayat? Qul. You hear the majalis so many times. You should have this ayat memorized. Qul la as'alukum alayhi ajran illa al-mawaddata fil qurba. If you don't know this ayat, memorize it. Surah Shura, ayat number 23. I do not ask anything from you except what? Love for my Ahlul Bayt. We understand that every nation in the world, Muslim, Ghair Muslim, every religion in the world, there's some sort of commemoration for their deceased. Even here in the Western world, when someone dies in the Christian world, They have wakes, they have, these memorials that are held. After 9/11, up until now, every year there's a special memorial that is held for people who died in the Twin Tower crash. So you remind people of the tragedy. Why? You can prevent the future tragedies from happening. And also out of love, compassion, mercy towards these people that who died, we are showing love for them. Every nation has that, every religion has that. Rasulullah is also on top of something which is being logical, something which is commonly done in the societies. It's a rational thing to do. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals an ayat on top of that, giving us confirmation on it. Sort of like when you have set your mind in buying a house, but you just want the istikhara to come positive as well. You've already made up the mind, I want to buy this house. But you also want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, istikhara bhi acha aa jaye, to phir noorun ala noor ho jayega. You've already made up your mind. You don't need istikhara at that moment. Just go ahead and buy the house. Here the same thing. We already know showing love to those who have left this world is something important. But then the ayat of Quran also comes and highlights and emphasizes by saying, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I do not ask anything from you except love for my Ahle Bayt. By conducting this majalis-e-aza, what are we doing? We are showing our mawaddat to Ahle Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So you have Surah Hud 120, you have Surah Hajj 32, you have Surah Shura 23, and the last ayah as I promised. Fourth ayah is from Surah Nisa 148. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah says, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم وكان الله سميعا عليما. Allah does not like when you openly announce and condemn someone of their evil. When some evil has happened somewhere, someone has committed a sin, Allah does not want you to openly announce that. No. Some brother has done something wrong, don't come to masjid announcing, oh, by the way, that brother did this. No. Allah does not like that. It's condemned in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Illa man zulim. Allah said, I condemn it, except in one scenario. If there's zulm being done, if there's injustice being done, if someone who's unjust, who kills someone and there's a Muslim on the other side, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifts this ban and says, no, go ahead and announce that to everyone. When we hold these majalis-e-aza, the purpose behind majlis, according to this ayat of Surah Nisa 148 is what? To go ahead and openly highlight the face of those who were zalimeen at that time, and also show our love toward those who were mazlumeen at that time. These are the 4 ayat for you as reference. Why do we have dhikr of Karbala? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is for outsiders. So when you argue with someone, when you have these communications, you tell that to them. But within our circles, one riwayat from our 6th Imam, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ भी कुछ ऐसा नासर आ गए हैं ना. There are some elements within our own who question majlis, who question aza. To answer their question, this riwayat from 6th Imam, Imam says, Nafasul mahmum li zulmina tasbihun wa hammuhu lana ibadatun. Nafasul mahmum. Nafas is breathing. Mahmum, in the state of grief. When you breathe while you're grieving, and you take this, insan leta hai rote hue. He said, Nafasul mahmoon li zulmina. Upon our tragedy is what? Tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where have you heard this before? Ramadan will come and you'll hear this from my mouth again. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the riwayah says that nawmukum fihi ibadah, anfasukum fihi tasbih. When you breathe in the month of Ramadan, what are you doing? Glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing the tasbih of Allah. When you sleep in the month of Ramadan, what are you doing? You're doing an ibadat. Meaning what? Ramadan is so high that even when you sleep, When you breathe, which is an involuntary act, it is considered to be glorification of Allah. Sixth Imam is saying what? When you breathe while doing our dhikr, and when you cry and you weep, and that nafas that you take, it is tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you cry over this, it is considered to be ibadat. Wa kitmanu sirrina jihadun fi sabilillah. And then Imam says something very strange. He said, قال أبو عبد الله يجب أن يكتب هذا الحديث بالذهب. It is incumbent upon you to write this hadith in golden words. इसको सुनहरी हुरूफ में लिखो और अपने सामने लगा लो ताकि तुम्हें याद रहे that dhikr of Ahlul Bayt is tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and crying over them is ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. That was as far as the last Majlis Aza of Ayyam Aza. Coming back to our topic of our 11th Imam, a few words just for tabarruk. Imam's Viladat is in next month, Rabi Thani, 10th of Rabi Thani in the year 232. And Imam's Shahadat, of course, as we know, is 8th of Rabiul Awwal in the year 260. 28 years of Imam's life. The most important aspect of Imam's life, which is different from all the previous Imams. 11th Imam is unique in a few ways. Previous Imams did not have to protect their progeny. Previous Imam did not have to protect the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an added task on Imam Hasan al-Askari, that he has to protect his son from the evil that exists, and he also has to be able to protect the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after he leaves this world. While he's alive, he has to protect him, and when he leaves, he makes sure that there is enough support for him so that he is protected. There's a story of, a person came, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim, he came to the house of our 11th Imam in this year 62 after, 262. Which is 2 years after the Shahadat of 11th Imam. He knocks on the door, and Imam's aunt, Hamida Khatun, she opens the door. Hakima Khatun, she opens the door. And this man says, who is the hujjat of Allah after Imam? Because we know Shahadat of Imam took place. She said, hujjat of Allah is his son. His name is this. He said, where is he? He said, well, he's in Ghaibat-e Sughra. You cannot reach him directly. He said, then who is the hujjat of that Imam on this earth? There's hujjat of Allah, and then that Imam also has hujjat on earth. Who is that hujjat while he's in ghaibat? Imam's aunt responded by saying, Jaddah. Jaddah is referred to the mother of Imam Hasan al-Askari, the wife of Imam Ali Naqi. Hudayth is her name, Sulayl, Hudayth, Salil or Hudayth is her name mentioned in Riwayat. He said, she is the hujjat of people in the ghaibat of Imam Zamana. He said, how is it possible that 11th Imam consider her to be the hujjat? A lady to be the hujjat of people, to be able to answer their questions. What is the precedent of that? She responded by saying, he's only doing the ta'assi to his Jad Imam Hussain, who after he left this world and gave asrar and rubuz to his son, 4th Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin, but because he was Alil, he made Zainab-e-Kubra to be the hujjat of people. She was the one protecting the Imam of the time, Imam Zamana. Now, this Jadda is the one doing the same thing as Bibi Zainab had done, and he's following the sunnat of Imam Hussain. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So she played that role. That was the role of the women at that time. And then of course comes the time of the Banu Abbas, how they degraded. But the women of Ahl Bayt were always prominent. Herself, Hakima Khatun. Then you go back a little bit further, you get into Bibi Masuma Qum Salamullah Alaiha. You go back further, Hamida Khatun, which I mistakenly said, in the time of 6th Imam, who narrated that hadith when someone came and said, what did 6th Imam say as his last word? She was the one bearer of the wasiyat of 6th Imam. She was actually amongst whom? She was amongst the 5, mentioned as the wasi of Imam in the wasiyat of 6th Imam. She was one of them. And then, of course, the story of Janab Zainab and other prominent women in the lives of Ahlul Bayt. Their roles, that is something which has to be highlighted, which has to be understood, how they, executed the roles that were given to them in these difficult times. Towards the end, I had some ahadith that I wanted to share, but most important thing and the task that Imam had in his hand was, of course, to protect Imam Zamana, but also at the same time fight against these groups that existed at that time. Unfortunately, these are certain groups which surface now and then again. They were there, then they went away, then they resurface. And unfortunately, some groups exist again today. Imam ﷺ fought against the Sufis of that time. There was a person by the name Ahmad ibn Hilal. He was a Sufi, known Sufi, someone who was known for his piety and his zohad and his asceticism. Imam ﷺ responded to his followers by saying what? Ihdaru as-Sufi al-Mutasanni'. Imam did not say, stay away from the Sufis and those who are pretending to be them. He used the word mutasanni to be the sifat of Sufi. He said, stay away from the Sufis who are, pretending always. He called all of the Sufis. He called out all of the Sufis. Not just the Sufis of the time today or at that time. He said, no, there must have been sometimes Sufis that existed who were good people. Imam is absolutely telling you to abstain from them. Why? Because what they do is just pretending. Meaning what? Meaning they refer to ayat of Quran such as وَعْبُدُوا رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَاتِيَكَ الْيَقِينَ. Sufis say this, worship Allah until you reach yaqeen. And then they say, well, I have reached yaqeen. Now I don't need to do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have reached yaqeen. I'm already at the manzil of yaqeen. Yaqeen that Amir al-Mu'mineen had said, لَوْ كُشِفَ الْغِطَاء مَزْدَدْتُ يَقِينًا. If all the veils are lifted from front of me, I will not increase one bit in my yaqeen. Did Imam stop praying? No. قُتِلَ عَلِيٌّ فِي الْمِحْرَابِ لِشِدَّةِ عَدْلِهِ. Ali was killed in mihrab in the state of ibadat. So you don't refrain from ibadat. What Sufis did was, they stopped doing ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam says, stay away from such Sufi gira, these people who are considered Sufi. Why? إِنَّهُمْ قُطَّاعُ الطَّرِيقِ. They are bandits, looters. They loot you the path of mu'mineen. وَالدُّعَاةُ إِلَى نِحْلَةِ الْمُلْحِدِينَ. They guide you or they invite you towards the path of mulhideen. فَمَنْ أَدْرَكَهُمْ فَلْيَحْذُرْهُمْ. Whoever sees them should remain away from them. فَلْيَسُنْ دِينَهُ وَإِيمَانَهُ. And protect their deen and iman. Why is Imam so adamant about these? Mohsin Qarati gave an example of this ayat when the Sufis use this ayat that if you reach yaqeen, you don't need to do ibadat of Allah. Ayat of Quran says, وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيكَ الْيَقِينَ. Pray, worship until you've reached yaqeen. They say, well, we've reached yaqeen, now we don't need to do ibadat. Mohsin Qarati gave an example like this. He said, when you climb a tree using a ladder and you go on top to get the fruits from the tree, you don't push the ladder away. You keep the ladder. Why? Because once you've gotten the fruits, you come back down again. It's not that when you reach the yaqeen, you let go of the ladder which brought you to this yaqeen. This is where they are making the mistake, and therefore if you run again into Sufis, refrain from them. Another group that Imam fought, I'm running out of my time, is those who were munkir of Khuda, and those who were waqifi, and those who were ghali. These are the groups that Imam ﷺ fought. As I said, every now and then these sort of groups resurface and we see these people once again. Imam ﷺ, one of the purposes of this azah that we have And I bring you towards the close. One of the purposes is to show the love to Ahlul Bayt. Another purpose is we are doing the ta'assi of Masumeen, because Masumeen used to do it. Another reason is because it gives us ma'arif and knowledge. It increases our ilm. Number 4, this Majlis-e-Aza makes us a better human being. Teaches us the akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. If in 2.5 months your akhlaq have not improved, then I'll recite the ayat again for you in the beginning that I read. Inna hadaynahu as-sabil imma shakiran wa imma kafura. If it's not making you a better person, that means you're not doing the shukr of Allah properly. And if it's not being done, then Allah uses the word kufr. I'm not going to use the word kufr for you. Right? One of the purposes behind this azah is, while it is a wazifa and a duty, no doubt about that, it is also a means to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at how many people are away from this majlis. How many people do not know about Imam Hussain? How many people have not heard about Imam Hussain? How many people are still deprived and mahroom of this farsh azah? And those of us who do come to this farsh azah, how much have we benefited from it? Every 2.5 months, when Muharram and Safar come, I think that has to be assessed. And that has to be reflected. Only then we can come out of this month as what? That we have paid the dues of azah of Sayyidul Shuhada. Although they can never be paid. But only at least then we can make such a claim. Imam Hasan al-Askari lived a life of only 28 years. 28 saal ka sin hai, 28 years. Imam lived in a garrison town of Samarra. Of course, he came with his father, 10th Imam, because of the always changing Khulafai Abbasi. Mu'taz was the last in the time of Imam. Mu'tamid, Mu'taz. They became the reason for the Shahadat of Imam. 28 years old. Look at people, kids around you, those who are now 28. What have we achieved at the age of 28? And this Imam is now about to be martyred at the age of 28. He's 28 years old. He's already done his job of protecting his son, who's the Hujjat of Allah. He's already set up everything as far as the Ghaibat-e-Kubra and Ghaibat-e-Sughra is concerned. The Sardar, where they're supposed to hide, while Imam ﷺ knows that he has been poisoned. Hukumat-e-Waqt cannot tolerate this 28-year-old man who's not challenging them, who's not standing up to fight. Mahz-e-Wujood-e-Imam is troubling for the government. That has been the case with all the other Khulafa as well. That has been the case with all the tyrant rulers of Banu Abbas as well. And same thing happened with our 11th Imam. Not only that Imam was martyred at the age of 28 by eating poison, he was poisoned. Imam leaves this world, but also Imam's Roza was destroyed. Imam, not only that you were killed, but after you were buried and resting in that place of yours, that Roza of yours was brought down as well. How much zulm can one bear to see that their loved ones? There's another Hasan. This is Hasan al-Askari. You want to go ahead and see Hasan al-Mushtaba, what happened to him? That when his janazah was taken out and it was being buried next to Rasulullah, the person who apparently, according to riwayat and the books of the Amma, had repented after Battle of Jamal, he becomes the reason of throwing arrows onto the tabut of Imam Hasan al-Mushtaba. To the extent that the Imam's body is bloodied again with his own blood, his kafan is bloodied again. It is brought back to the home. Imam Hussain washes it and replaces it with the new kafan and then buries him. Same thing is the case with our 11th Imam, how Imam ﷺ was poisoned, he was killed, and then second thing that we see what happens, that his mazar is also brought down. The way the graves of Baqi were brought down and they were raised to the ground, the Roza of Imam Hasan al-Askari was raised to the ground as well. I say, oh Mawla, while it was difficult for you, your task was multitude because you had to protect the hujjat of Allah. You did your duty. It was your son who was there. When the time for janaza came and someone else wanted to lead your namaz janaza, your 5-year-old Imam Mahdi came. He removed that man. He said, this is my right. I will be leading the janaza of my father. That man went away with a 5-year-old son of yours, Hujjat of Khuda, led the janaza prayers. Your janaza came out. People from all around came for your burial. It was ta'til and am for all the people. That's how big your janaza was. But come to Karbala, O Imam, your Jad Hussain, his lasha is remaining on the plains of Karbala for 3 days, and there's no covering for it. There's no namaz janaza, and there is no burial for him. Ala lanatullah khamsa. Sa'alamul lazina zalamu ayyamun qalbin yanqalibun. Matame Hussain.
ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، بولی نرجس یہ با قلب مضطر، بولی نرجس یہ با قلب مضطر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، جیتی بیٹھی ہوں والی کو کھو کر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، بولی نرجس یہ با قلب مضطر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری، اٹھ گیا ہائے ہادی ہمارا، مر گیا بے کسوں کا سہارا، اٹھ گیا ہائے ہادی ہمارا، مر گیا بے کسوں کا سہارا، ہر طرف گھر میں محشر ہے برپا، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، بولی نرجس یہ با قلب مضطر، ہائے مارا تھا وہ برج صداقت کا گوہر، تھا وہ برج امامت کا اختر، تھا وہ برج صداقت کا گوہر، تھا وہ برج امامت کا اختر، تھا وہ نور نگاہ پیمبر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ایک حضرت کو کیا موت آئی، ہو گئی سارے گھر کی صفائی. ایک حضرت کو کیا موت آئی، ہو گئی سارے گھر کی صفائی. کوئی مونس ہے اپنا نیاور، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو. سال 19واں کیسا آیا، ساتھ والی کا جس نے چھڑایا. سال 29واں کیسا آیا، ساتھ والی کا جس نے چھڑایا. پھر گیا مجھ سے میرا مقدر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو. زہر کیسا یہ قاتل تھا واری، جس نے لی جان ہائے تمہاری. زہر کیسا یہ قاتل تھا واری، جس نے لی جان ہائے تمہاری. کیوں نہ ٹوٹا فلک معتمد پر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو. رو رہے ہیں وہ نازوں کے پالے، کوئی بچے کو کیوں کر سنبھالے. رو رہے ہیں وہ نازوں کے پالے، کوئی بچے کو کیوں کر سنبھالے. کہہ رہے ہیں بلک کے وہ مضطر، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو، ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو. یا حسین.
الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین. یہ صدائے فغاں اور یہ مجلس ماتم و نوحہ اور غم کی یہ زینتیں، چاہتا ہے یہ دل یوں ہی قائم رہے، چاہتا ہے یہ دل یوں ہی قائم رہے. آہ پھٹتا ہے دل کس طرح یہ کہے، الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین. میرے مہمان ہے آخری سلام، تجھ پہ قربان ہے آخری سلام. شاہ ذیشان ہے آخری سلام، شاہ ذیشان ہے آخری سلام.
حسن ہے آخری سلام. الوداع الوداع اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین. بخش دے ہو گئی ہو جو کوئی خطا، بخش دے ہو گئی ہو جو کوئی خطا. حق کی خدمت نہ ہم سے ادا ہو سکا، غم یہی ہے نہ جی بھر کے ماتم کیا، غم یہی ہے نہ جی بھر کے ماتم کیا. تیری خاطر نہ کیوں اپنا سر دے دیا، الوداع 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 اے حسین. گر جیے سال بھر پھر کریں گے یہ غم، گر جیے سال بھر پھر کریں گے یہ غم. روئیں گے پھر تیرے غم میں مل کر بہائیں گے، غم میں مل کر بہا. اور اگر مر گئے تو یہ ہوگا اعلیٰ، اور اگر مر گئے تو یہ ہوگا اعلیٰ. آئے افسوس جی بھر کے روئے نہ، الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین، اے حسین الوداع، الوداع اے حسین، اے حسین الوداع، الوداع اے شہ مشرقین الوداع، بنت احمد کے نور عین الوداع، بنت احمد کے نور عین الوداع. ہے مجاہد کے لب پر یہ بین الوداع، الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع 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 اے حسین، الوداع
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى، السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلطان والحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك وتحت لوائك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة،